Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, and I am joined today by the fabulous Michelle, who is an Instagram and business coach. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Michelle.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
And we are going to be looking at today how you can create content on social media to activate your audience and to convert into sales. So content creation, as we know, is something that many entrepreneurs need to be able to do or have as part of their business, and something that so many people feel very overwhelmed with. So Michelle, I would love to dive into the topic about content creation today. And why don't we start with talking a little bit about how can female business owners and entrepreneurs actually use content creation to grow their business and make sales?
Yeah, of course. So I feel that just now that we're really fortunate that we live in a time where we've got so much free opportunity at our fingertips when it comes to content creation and free marketing. It's just such an incredible time to build an online business, but it is all about creating content that resonates with your ideal clients and showcases your expertise. So we really need to start by understanding the pain points, understanding the desires of your target audience. And it just can't be the fluffy, vague pain points and desires of the things that would be nice to have or nice to overcome. It really needs to be the real deep-rooted problems that keep them awake at night. So how do they feel when they wake up in the morning? What is a day in their life like? For me, my dream client's goal is to scale their business. Their problem is that they don't know how to do it. So, but their real problem is that they wake up at night exhausted after 5 hours sleep from work until 2 a.m. They've got their next offer, but they've not got time to launch it because they're back to back with sales calls. So this is the difference between just focusing on those fluffy, vague problems and actually digging deep into the problems that your ideal clients have right now on that deeper level. And I often find that that's what's missing when it comes to creating content for female entrepreneurs. Yes, we need to provide value and solutions and educate and inspire, but to actually convert on its own, that type of content isn't enough. So I think this really needs to be the bigger focus when it comes to content creation to actually make sales in your business.
I love this. I love this. And so many people, I think, like I said earlier, are overwhelmed with creating content, but also, a lot of people do struggle with either coming up with the ideas or knowing what to post. And I think there's an awful lot of mixed messages out there. But what would you say are the biggest struggles that female entrepreneurs face when creating content?
Yeah, of course. So I would say one of them, first of all, is time management. So balancing content creation with running a business and not having a team to support you, and you've got your kids, you've got your clients. So your content, I feel, sometimes takes a bit of a back seat, and it ends up being rushed just to get something out there. So you're not focusing on that strategy, which is super important, which leads me on to the next point, I suppose, clarity and consistency. So maintaining that clear, consistent message that aligns with their brand can be quite difficult. So there's so much noise out there from different experts in this space, and that their way of doing things is the only way that's going to work. And I think sometimes female entrepreneurs can chop and change how they show up, trying elements from what others around them are doing instead of really stepping into their own leadership and showing up as their authentic self. So I think one of the most important things when it comes to creating content is having that ability to stand out and to become the competition. But it can be so hard when you've got all that noise around you of what you should be doing and how you should be showing up, which I suppose then gives people a lot of self-doubt. So they struggle with imposter syndrome, questioning if their content's good enough, stuck in that thought of self-doubt, feeling shame around selling, wondering why would anyone buy from me? And this fear can often lead to being the reason why these amazing entrepreneurs that have amazing offers and amazing services actually hold back. and I know that this is a big one for you, but having a content strategy 100% is the most important thing. So knowing what type of content to create and knowing how to effectively plan it. And this is really important for your visibility as well as conversion content. So many entrepreneurs get stuck in that awareness stage when it comes to content creation, and they're missing the key elements of high converting content. So with all my clients, I always like to teach them to work backwards from their offers, just to make sure that everything is in alignment with your goals. So understanding why you're posting is the most important thing when it comes to success. So these are the most common struggles that I see for female entrepreneurs that come into my world, that come to work with me. And yeah, and it tends to be the biggest roadblocks when it comes to actually making sales for their business or attracting that ideal client, because they're not really being clear with who it is they're speaking to, or showing up consistently enough, or showing up in that way that makes them stand out and be seen.
Love this. Absolutely love this. And something that you touched on at the beginning of that was about time. We're going to move on to kind of activation and selling in a minute, but something that you touched on was kind of time, and maybe a struggle that people have is finding the time to create the content and actually know where to start. So do you have any tips or advice with how to create the content? And if people are struggling for time, what can they do to kind of overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so in terms of actual time, it's managing your boundaries 100%. Like, but setting aside that time to create your content is always going to make it easier for you in the long run, and being prepared. I always like to set aside time, maybe I spend 2 hours at one part of the week writing out all my captions. And then I find it takes a different type of mindset to film your content or have that creative side and actually create it in Canva than it does to write your captions. So I always like to batch create my captions, then batch create the creative side, because I think it takes a different side of your brain to do
Yes,
that. So
absolutely.
if you're starting and you're like, okay, I'll do this design, then I'll write this, and I'm doing this design, I just feel like you lose your flow a bit. So I would say when it comes to managing your time and creating your content, to just batch it, set aside some time and just focus on one part of that at a time. And yeah, I suppose that's the most important thing when it comes to managing your time effectively. And yeah, I don't really think there's much else in sort of time management. It can be hard when you've got your clients and you've got your kids and you've got all of these other things going on in your life. But your content is, like I said at the beginning, we've got this opportunity just now with particularly Instagram, where we can get in front of our ideal clients without having to pay money to do that. So
Free marketing.
yeah, it is exactly. It's free marketing. So I think making it a priority should be part of your business strategy 100%, because that's the only way that you're going to be seen. It's the only way that you're going to be visible. And remembering how important your content strategy is to your overall business growth is definitely important.
Amazing. Absolutely. So batch creating, of course, and this is something that I do, and I know many of my clients do as well. And I think it's just finding the way that's best for you, isn't there? So, whether it's once a month, once a week, once a fortnight, but waking up and trying to think of what to post isn't the most strategic approach in terms of your content. So I 100% agree with you in that, in terms of just making sure that you're fitting it in around your own schedule, but obviously prioritizing that as one of the most important parts of your running your business.
Yeah.
Amazing. So there are a lot of mixed messages out there about creating content. In fact, there are so many people teaching how to create content. And I would love to be able to solidify and give my listeners some really great advice when it comes to creating content. So let's start with your opinion, first of all, Michelle, because I would love to know, what do you think makes great content?
So I think authentic content, 100%. So content that reflects your true self, your brand values. It's so important because we don't want to blend in. We want to stand out and we want to be seen and we want to be different than everybody else. So I love seeing opinion-based content as well from female entrepreneurs and creators in this space that goes against what everyone else is saying, and sharing your own unique perspectives, your own opinions. And you can do this through storytelling, sharing your journey, your values, and really building a connection with your audience. And I think it's so easy to forget sometimes that your audience are human beings at the other side of that screen. So it's important to humanize your brand and let them get to know you outside of your business as well, but really letting them get to know that your values, and it helps them to connect with you on that deeper level beyond your business. And something that I always say inside my programs, that we need to edutain our audience, which I know isn't a word, but educate, entertain. And it's to remember that people don't come on Instagram to be sold to, they're here to be inspired. So we need to give them a reason to follow us and a reason to interact with our content. And yes, obviously our goal is to make sales because we're a business, but there's ways of doing that that still build an engaged community. And lastly, I think one of the most important things, and I know that this is a big roadblock for a lot of female entrepreneurs, is don't gatekeep. So give as much value as you can. And people always worry that if they give tons of value in their content, that it's going to stop people from buying, but it's actually the complete opposite. If you think that if someone comes across your content and it's just fluffy information that they could just Google, then it's not going to actually connect with them. It's not going to move them in a way that's going to make them activated to buy. So this is where sharing your own perspectives, open them up to new ways of thinking, shifting limiting beliefs, you suddenly have an engaging, loyal community. And that's so important when it comes to building a personal brand or building a business on Instagram. And of course, strategic content, 100%. It makes making sure it's aligned with your business goals and it's guiding your audience towards that next step. Everything that you do should be in line with what your goals are. And again, I know I said this earlier, but that's why I always say working backwards from your goals is the most strategic approach that you can have. So if you know, for instance, that you're selling your course this month, then what's inside the course? What are you offering in that? Your content needs to be about that. Your content needs to be aligned. So you're taking them on that journey from that first interaction until they lead into a sale. But yeah, I think these are the most important things. But I absolutely love when I see female entrepreneurs showing up as themselves. It's the most refreshing thing to see. You see so many other people just mimicking what other people are doing, and it never works. You can't be someone else. So, and I think people are always a bit frightened to show up as who they truly are and to share what they're really thinking. But this is really where you are going to stand out 100%. So I would say of all of the things, that's the most important.
I love this. And again, it resonates back to when I first started creating content back in 2021. I know I've shared this story before on my podcast, but for me as well, back then, my content was vanilla because I was quite simply mimicking what I'd been taught by my coach at the time, but so was everyone else. And, it's just a watered down version of my coach at that time. And I just think it's so important to, like you said, to really stand out, but actually to be you, to share your voice, to share your values, your opinions, and everything needs to be aligned with, like you said, your core values. Because then people can connect with you, can't they? They can see
Exactly
what they're either investing in if they choose to invest or what they're inspired by. And, I love that you touched on that as well, that, people don't just want to be sold to, they want to feel inspired. They want to be able to take whatever value you're offering and actually use that. So they can, I don't know, improve their hair or, improve their mindset or whatever it is, because obviously every business is different. Amazing. I love this advice so much. And it completely aligns with exactly how I feel about creating content as well from that perspective. So what would you say is the best type of content when it comes to making sales? So if we dive into the sales side of things, and we know that leadership content, storytelling content, all of these things are really, really important. But in terms of now selling, and for all of the female entrepreneurs listening, what would you say is the best type of content to make sales?
So based on my personal experiences and what I've seen from my clients, authority content, 100%. So sharing your transformations, your unique frameworks, your processes, your opinions, like we've obviously just discussed. These are all really, really powerful. Educational content has always got its place. I think it's still super important, but it's not just how to go from A to B. Like that's too vanilla, too fluffy, like we've just said. So for example, instead of saying how my client went from A to B, I would say how my client was stuck at 5K months for 3 years, had their first 20K months following this unique framework. So it's being more specific with your education and making sure that education is your unique frameworks and what you teach inside your offers and what you teach inside your program. So we're still educating our audience, but we're going a bit deeper, showcasing proof that what we teach works while still providing that educational touch, which I think is super important, because people still want value. And this is more sort of indirectly selling, because again, like we said, like, people don't come on this platform to be sold to. They don't pick up the phone at night and think, oh, I'm going to go and find someone's program to buy. Like, that's not why they're here. But if we inspire them enough, then we're going to shift their beliefs and we're going to make them want to be inside your offers. So creating desire as well alongside that, it is the most powerful type of content that I've found. If you can create desire in your audience, your offers suddenly go from that would be nice to have to, oh my God, I need this yesterday. And we need to make them feel something in our content if we want them to take action. And lastly, I think I would say problem aware content. So problem aware content for me is one of my highest converting pieces of content, showing someone what the problem they think they have is and showing them the real problem. So again, this focuses on your leadership and your authority content. It's sort of infusing everything into the one, but it helps show you the authority. So an example would be, I'm not making sales because I've only got 300 followers. Is the problem that they think they have, and that's for my audience specifically. But me as the expert know that the real problem is with their messaging and not the number of followers they have. So this is what I mean about shifting limiting beliefs and creating that problem aware content. 9 times out of 10, I would say that your audience's problems are not the actual problems that they have. So yeah, infusing all of these into your sales strategy 100%, I would say, is the most powerful way to convert your audience. And obviously you can still use storytelling and all of these things. And I often find that the different types of content that you create can all sort of sync into one another. So you could create problem aware content that's also storytelling and also shifting limiting beliefs. So it's not just that you have to focus on one, but everything that you do, like I said, should always have that leadership touch to it, where you're showcasing yourself as an authority in some way, and infusing how you teach when you're educating them as well. So not just giving them information, make the information specific to you and what you teach and what your audience are going to get from you if they come inside your programs. So yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would recommend. What do you think, Kayleigh?
No, I absolutely agree. Some great advice there. And for those that are listening, if you're looking to really make sales through your content, take on board Michelle's advice there in terms of, again, we're considering and thinking about how do we activate that audience? How do we engage your audience? We're obviously wanting to evoke emotion, but we're wanting to really show them the desire, what is possible for them, how we can support them through a transformation. And like you said, that problem awareness content is so, so powerful. So I love all of this. It's great advice. I'm sure people will be listening in and making some notes, which is great. So thank you, darling. Let's talk a little bit about growth, because this is something that, is a very common talked about topic when it comes to social media. And a lot of people think that they need a lot of followers in order to make a lot of sales. So in your opinion, is growing a big audience? And when I say big audience, I'm going to say big audience beyond 10,000, right? Is growing an audience beyond 10K important when trying to make sales on social media? What's your opinion on it?
I love this question. And it's so funny because I actually started as Instagram growth. That's what I taught. But no, it's not. So a big audience obviously can have its benefits, but what really matters is having an engaged audience. So an engaged audience that trusts you, that's aligned with your brand. So quality over quantity all the time. So a smaller, highly engaged audience is much more likely to convert into paying clients than a large, disengaged one. So what quite often happens when entrepreneurs are growing their businesses online, they think, oh, I need to have loads of followers before I do this, and I need to have 10,000 followers before I do this. And it's just not the case. But what happens when you're focusing so much on that top of funnel content, that attraction content, is you're not really speaking to your dream ideal client. So I know that this is something that you teach inside your programs and things as well, Kayleigh, but I think a lot of people get confused with their target audience and their target buyers. Like, who is it that you want to actually buy your program? So if your goal is to make sales, but you're really focusing on your target audience all the time, and trying to grow your followers, then you're probably bringing in followers that aren't actually aligned with your offers. So I would say that no, it's not important. I've got clients that have come to work with me with more followers than I have, and I look at their inquiry and think, what are you here for? And it turns out that they aren't making sales, or they're relying on paid ads because they've built their followers in a way that they're not their ideal dream buyers. And so providing value, building strong relationships, nurturing your audience. If you focus on building a community instead of followers, the sales will naturally come to you. And I would always say that that is the most important thing.
I love this. And I couldn't agree more. I know people have different opinions on the
Yes.
size of audiences. And Michelle, you know, I'm a massive gatekeeper for my own audience as well. And I just think it's, you know, it's very important. So many female entrepreneurs, especially in their first year of business, for example, you know, may have a couple of hundred followers. But, you know, my stance on this is always, if you've got a couple of hundred, just imagine those couple of hundred in a room and you're standing on a stage speaking to those few hundred. That's quite a few people. That's quite a few people. So
people forget that all the time. Like, it's, if I always say as well, like, even if someone might say, oh, my post only got 50 views, I'm like, well, that's fine. What if 10 of those people in there are all ready to buy from you? What's the point in it getting 5,000 views if none of them are interested in your offers? So we need to just remember that if you can reach one of your dream clients through your content, and your message is worth sharing, I always think that that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. I love this. So you don't need a big audience, ladies, to make some sales. Michelle has given you some incredible advice today in terms of creating content, what makes great content in order to sell, but also to nurture. What about activation then? So I know I touched on this briefly and you've already mentioned this anyway, but what tips would you give our listeners for creating content to activate the audience to buy?
Okay, so I know I've covered this already, but focusing on their pain points and desires, but going beyond that surface level. So really infusing that into your content and being direct with your audience about what you want them to do next. So the biggest thing that I see when it comes to entrepreneurs online is when they're not making sales, and I'll go and I'll review what they've been working on or what they've been doing the weeks before, is that they're not actually talking about their offers. They don't talk about them enough, or they have this shame of, oh, I spoke about it yesterday, so I'll wait a few days for talking about it again. But what people need to remember is the only person that sees everything that you post is you. It's not the same people seeing your content all of the time. And actually talking about your offers is so important. And like I said previously, it doesn't have to always be buy this now. Like, it can be indirectly. So showing your offers in action, sharing your framework, sharing your journey, sharing testimonials, and just letting them know what you do and talking about it all of the time is so important. And I know that seems like a really silly thing to say for activating your audience to buy, but it is one of the biggest gaps that I see, is people just don't talk about their offers enough. And you should be talking about them every day in some way. And following a framework. And I know that we both use this same framework. I think it's why we're so aligned with the way that we teach, Kayleigh. But so following our framework like IDA, so that you're focusing, taking them through that buyer journey. So using interest, awareness, desire, action, and remembering that you're speaking to people at different stages of this journey, and it's going to be different things that move them from where they are in their journey right now. And trust 100%. You need to build trust with your audience. So using testimonials, using case studies, using authentic storytelling. And I know that there might be people listening that are maybe just starting out in their business journey. Maybe they don't have social proof yet, but that's also fine. Like, when I started, when you started, when anyone started, we didn't just have social proof sitting around that we were able to use. Like, the only way to get social proof is to show up and to get people into your offers and build them over time. There's other ways of building trust with your audience, and that's using your story and educating them and building that trust and connection through your content. And engaging with your community as well. Like, I'm not saying that you have to go out and engage for hours and hours a day, but at least responding to comments and messages and creating that interactive community is really important. If you want people to engage with you, then we need to return that. Show your followers that you care about them, show them that you're interested in what they're doing, and starting conversations with people. So I know that people think sometimes just posting is enough, like putting a piece of content out there and they're like, oh, but nobody bought. But what else are you doing? What actions are you taking out with that? It's not just as simple as putting a post out there and sharing a story and all the followers will come running in. It takes multiple touch points for someone to be ready to buy. So what are you doing to create those multiple touch points? If someone comments in your post, are you reaching out with a DM in response and starting a conversation with them? And it doesn't have to be cold DMs, because I would never recommend that. 100% don't like it at all. But if someone responds to your comment, they've shown that they're interested, so they'll be open to you reaching out to them in DM. So doing all these little actions out with everything else that you're doing as part of your normal content strategy is really important as well, to actually activate your audience to buy and to nurture them closer towards a sale. And urgency, creating urgency around your offers as well. Like, why do they need to be inside? What's happening inside? Is there bonuses? Are the doors closing? Like, how many spots are left? Like, doing this and creating some fun around selling as well can definitely help to get people inside and get them off the fence.
I love this.
I think that's it.
I hope people have been making some notes, because there's some incredible advice there and tips in terms of, creating content to activate. And I love the fact, actually, one of the points that you mentioned there was, actually connecting with people, having conversations, starting conversations. And I 100% agree. I say this to so many of my clients inside Unstoppable all the time. Start conversations with people. Don't be afraid to do it, because like you said, your content posted alone, especially if you're in the first year of your business, potentially won't be enough to bring in all of your dream clients that you want, to fill your spots in your programs and all the things. So I 100% agree. And I love having conversations with people. I'm a massive voice note person, as you know, Michelle, so many people know. I love sending people voice notes, but I also love finding out about other people, and purely because it is a community. You are building a community. And if you don't utilize that and see it as a community, you just see it as a selling machine, it's not going to do you any favors. And I think I love that advice that you've given there, because it is so important. You are here to build a community, and your content is one of the biggest opportunities for you, and your profile, should I say, or your account, is one of your biggest opportunities to create a really warm and engaged community, because other people are out there doing it. So if you're not sending messages, you're not having conversations with people, ladies, then take Michelle's advice, because it's great advice, and I would 100% recommend doing exactly that. This is amazing advice, and honestly, I thank you so much for coming onto this podcast today. I've got a couple more things before we finish, which I think would be really, really great to share. The first thing is, what's that one final piece of advice that you would give all of our listeners today about creating content? That final piece of advice, or one final tip?
Just post it. People overthink it. People overthink it so much, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can post this yet, or wait till it's ready. And stop overthinking it. Post it, share your opinions, show up as you. And one of the biggest things that I would say, and I know that this works for a lot of my clients that work with me, is if there's other accounts out there that are making you feel like you can't show up, or you need to be doing something else, mute these accounts. It's so difficult when you see all these this noise around you of what is the best way to show up, and I just feel like you lose your creativity when you're looking through all of these accounts and thinking, oh, should I be doing that? And should I be doing this? And should I be doing that? So go with what feels right to you, but just post the post, show up, don't hold back. I think that's the most important thing, because I know consistency over everything is really important. If you want to stay top of mind for your audience, you need to be consistent. And if you're not posting and your competition is, they'll end up buying from them and not you. So make sure that you are active online. And just really lean into your own opinions and your own thoughts, and try and block out the noise that's around you of what everyone else is doing.
I love this. Absolutely love it. Absolutely. Stay in your lane, as I always say.
Yes.
Stay in your lane, stay focused. Amazing. Final question, and I ask every single guest that I have on the podcast this one question. What is your word or mantra for the year?
My word for the year, you'll know this already, Kayleigh, is magnetic. So I'm making big changes in my business, but also for my clients as well. And the reason for that is my big focus is drawing in more opportunities, more clients, and more success through magnetic and powerful strategies. And this is the same for my clients, and this is what I'm supporting them with inside my programs and things as well. So yes, magnetic, attracting your dream clients, attracting everything to you, and not having that time-consuming task of chasing followers and chasing sales and all of the things that people often get so caught up in.
Amazing. I love that. I love that word, magnetic. I love hearing everyone's words. It always fascinates me when I ask this question at the end of every episode. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for being our guest on today's episode, Michelle. I really appreciate it. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I have loved being here. You can find me at social media with Michelle on Instagram. I am just on Instagram. I find it easier just to have one platform. But yeah, I would absolutely love to have you in my community, and it's been such a pleasure being here as well. And if anyone does have any questions about anything that I've spoke about in today's podcast, please, my DMs are always open.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, darling. And please do go and give Michelle a follow. She is incredible at what she does. And we really appreciate having her here on the podcast. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us in today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I will see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.